Moscow has been shaken. Wildberries is under fire again. Russian military facilities are still burning. The Russian army is preparing to flee Crimea. Substations on the peninsula are under fire. And this is just the beginning. And also a kill zone on the Ukrainian-Belarusian border. The Ukrainian armed forces are ready to meet uninvited guests. Watch fiery, intense, and blazing footage from the front lines right now. Greetings, Vladimir Timoshenko here. And let's get straight to the main topic. A new stage of the war. Ukrainian drones have destroyed the warehouses of Russia's leading marketplace, Wildberries. The company's giant warehouses became targets after they turned into key transit hubs for supplying the Russian occupation army. There were drones, fiber optic cables, bulletproof vests, radios, and more stored there. Here are the details of this successful Ukrainian attack.
For the second day in a row, the Moscow region resembles the frontline territories in Donbass, constant explosions and fires. In Domodedovo and Podolsk, yet again, massive and strategic warehouse facilities were completely destroyed by incoming Ukrainian drones.
And right there it is. The Ukrainian drone has finished its mission and done its job. Look, the highway's on fire. This is on our second line. The second line is burning.
The strikes once again targeted Wildberries warehouses and others as well. The large-scale attack was confirmed by Moscow Mayor Sobyanin.
From 8:30 p.m. to 5 a.m., more than 400 enemy drones flew toward the Moscow region. Most of them were neutralized by air defense forces at a distance. 85 UAVs were destroyed as they approached Moscow. Sobyanin.
The terminals in Podolsk are among the largest logistics hubs owned by the company. But the Ukrainian drones didn't just target them. The most prestigious districts of the Moscow region also came under attack.
The Zelenskyy district is known for having the most elite, the most expensive settlements, summer cottage communities in the Moscow region, including the famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, Rublyovka Highway, Barvikha, Ilyanskoye, and Nikolina Gora. That's basically it. In general, everything that is associated with these very districts, well, that's how it is. But now they are becoming, so to speak, a dangerous area to live in.
The long-range successes of the Ukrainian armed forces were also noted by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
The capital region. There are results from our long-range strikes on logistics facilities and an oil depot. Thanks to the warriors of the Unmanned Systems Forces, reconnaissance, missile troops and artillery, and special operations forces. The distance to the target from our border is more than 400 kilometers.
According to the assessment of the Russian Federal Anti-Monopoly Service, by the beginning of 2024, Wildberries accounted for 47% of the Russian marketplace market. This means that almost every second order placed through marketplaces in Russia was processed specifically through Wildberries. The main value of the company lies in its established logistics infrastructure, which suffered significant damage from Ukrainian drones over the course of 2 days. The estimated damage exceeds 100 billion rubles. A huge number of military goods were sold on Wildberries, and these warehouses are very important for the Russian army. Sights, body armor, helmets, fiber optics for FPV drones, and much more. After the strikes, Z military bloggers simply started howling in their channels.
A huge number of military and dual-use goods are sold on Wildberries. Volunteers often buy related and necessary items there for conducting combat operations. So the strikes on the warehouses will also seriously impact frontline supplies and the volunteer movement. Piper results.
In the city of Moscow, alarming information is currently spreading that the concentration of various dangerous carcinogenic substances has reached critical, extremely high levels, and it is expected that they will remain so for about another 2 weeks. This situation has developed shortly after, or specifically as a direct result of the massive fire that recently occurred at the Wildberries warehouses. Local authorities are monitoring the air quality closely during this difficult time.
According to Radio Liberty, within a 10-kilometer radius of the attacked Wildberries warehouses and oil depots, there are more than 20 Panzer air defense systems. But judging by the damage caused, the much-vaunted Russian air defense, to put it mildly, is not working very effectively. Well then now let's analyze the operational situation on the blazing Pokrovsk direction of the front. Fierce fighting has been going on for years now. In the Pokrovsk direction, our defenders repelled 30 assault actions by the aggressor in the areas of the settlements of Toretskoye, Shakovo, Udaknoye, Filia, Grishino, and towards the settlements of Kucheryov Yar, Novi Donbas, Mirnoye, Belitskoye, Svetloye, Novopavlovka, Shevchenko, and Novopodgorodnoye. And now about the dire situation for the occupiers in Crimea. Documents have surfaced online indicating that in Sevastopol, lists of families of Russian military personnel and fleet employees are being urgently compiled in case of evacuation. Whom does Moscow plan to evacuate first? What exactly is the reason that these extensive preparations have started at this specific moment? And does this strongly suggest the possibility that Russians are no longer feeling particularly secure or safe while staying on the peninsula? Let's break it down in our report.
Life for the occupiers in occupied Crimea is becoming increasingly unbearable. The Russian command has likely begun preparing for a scenario that the Kremlin prefers not to discuss publicly. We are talking about the possible evacuation of the families of Russian Black Sea Fleet servicemen, civilian personnel, and employees of military institutions in Sevastopol. This information emerged after the publication of documents that the research group Void Group describes as an urgent telegram from the commander of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, Sergei Pinchuk. According to the published data, Russian military units and organizations of the Sevastopol garrison have received orders to compile lists of people who, if necessary, will be evacuated from the territory of the occupied peninsula.
The Crimean Peninsula is gradually turning not just into an isolated and disconnected island, but into an island where daily life will be, if not entirely impossible, then certainly and increasingly difficult. The Russian command is currently interpreting all of this as a distinct and very real possibility that an appropriate military operation against Crimea will be launched and executed by the various branches of the Ukrainian defense forces. And in order to ensure the safety of personnel who may be carrying out their duties, for example, in Novorossiysk, it is not necessary for them to be in Crimea. For this reason, the families of officers and enlisted personnel, including the families of Russian occupation troops stationed in Crimea, are being evacuated to reduce the risk that may arise. The Russian command is seriously considering the possibility that Ukrainian defense forces, for example, could carry out an amphibious operation in Crimea.
Reportedly, almost all military infrastructure in Sevastopol has been required to collect data. The list includes units of the Russian Army and Air Defense, Naval Engineering Services, missile and artillery armament repair enterprises, and ship repair plants. The list may cover thousands of people involved in the operation of the entire Black Sea Fleet.
Taking advantage of the moment, while the Kerch Bridge is still operational, they will try to evacuate as many people as possible, those who want to leave, and first and foremost, those who may be forced to leave if there is an order or directive from the command. I think that is exactly what they will be doing in the near future, as long as the Kerch Bridge has not yet been attacked.
As experts say, the Russian Black Sea Fleet no longer fulfills the tasks for which it was originally created. Most of the warships are sheltering in Novorossiysk, and attempts to restore the fleet are regularly thwarted by Ukrainian strikes. The Kremlin keeps it in the Black Sea mainly for political reasons.
The most recent use, which took place about a month ago, revealed a mismatch between the number of missiles and the number of launchers. In other words, there should be more of them. So this either means a shortage of missiles or damage.
Publicly, Moscow continues to claim that it fully controls the peninsula, but privately, judging by the leak, it is already counting military families, checking institutions, and preparing documents in case they need to be urgently evacuated. Moreover, the current strikes on the fleet are also a blow to Russia's economy and defense.
There is specifically a shortage of tankers, a shortage of ships. This is exactly what Russia may face. Not to mention the losses it is suffering due to such a blockade, as in the Sea of Azov and now essentially in the Black Sea as well.
And what we get is a very telling picture. While ordinary Russians are being told that Crimea is not under threat, the command of the Black Sea Fleet, it seems, is already deciding in advance whom they will rescue first.
And now we move to the Sloviansk and Kramatorsk directions of the front. Let's be honest, these are also sacred targets for Putin and his entire gang. Accordingly, the situation here is also extremely tense. In the Sloviansk direction, the enemy launched 27 assaults in the areas of the settlements of Zakitne, Krivaluka, Rezjakivka, and towards Peskunivka and Rai-Oleksandrivka. In the Kramatorsk direction, the Russian invaders carried out 2 attacks in the area of Nikiforivka. And continuing on the topic of Crimea, which is temporarily occupied by the Russians, the peninsula is without electricity and communication, gasoline provisions, and in some areas, even without drinking water. Soviet-era payphones are even being installed on the streets of the cities. More about the horrors brought by the so-called Russian world in the exclusive report from my colleagues. After an incredibly arduous, lengthy, and deeply exhausting journey, Crimea and Sevastopol are finally making their way back to the welcoming shores of their native harbor.
The Crimean switch has been turned off. Currently, there is no electrical power or gasoline supplies available in Crimea. The Ukrainian armed forces have caused a total blackout.
I washed my hair from a basin outside. I'll dry it like this in the sun.
Putin and his entourage, as expected, simply abandoned the people of Crimea.
The Crimean referendum and Crimea's loyalty to Russia reminded us all of what it means to be brothers. We congratulate the people of Crimea and all of us, and we await this reunification that we deserve.
Do you know what I feel? Hopelessness. That's the word for it. We've simply been left behind. Rostov, Krasnodar, everyone gets help, but we get nothing.
In recent weeks, substations and other energy infrastructure on the peninsula have been regularly targeted by drone attacks, causing power outages in various areas.
Yeah, it's scary. Who isn't scared? Moscow looks St. Petersburg is the same, Krasnodar, Sochi,
Bryansk and other cities.
Residents of coastal cities, particularly Feodosia, Sudak, and Yalta, are increasingly complaining about complete power outages immediately following a series of explosions.
Guys, there's been no electricity in Gorzov for a long time now, 10 hours. Right now, only those who have generators have power.
Within the framework of the Crimean Switch Off operation, the night proved to be more productive. 13 energy hubs and substations were hit. 8 in Crimea and 5 in the temporarily occupied southern and eastern territories of Ukraine. A major fire broke out in Sevastopol in the area of military warehouses. In Krasnoperekopsk, Russian military depots near the railway station were hit. The detonation lasted for 4 hours. And residents of Yalta reported at least 2 explosions. According to local reports after this, several areas of the city experienced power outages, and the Dersin electrical substation may have been damaged. Eyewitnesses reported a fire at the site. The Operation Crimean Switch Off involves strikes on energy infrastructure facilities that ensure the functioning of occupied Crimea.
I live in Simferopol, and today I came home to find there was no electricity again. I had to walk up to a high floor, and as I was climbing, I thought to myself that I'm really getting tired of all this. I made the decision to leave.
Crimeans complained about network outages.
First of all, there's no electricity. Basically, in simple terms, here's the router, and here's another outlet in the apartment. And here's the power bank. We connected this kind of adapter to the power bank and powered both this and this. So everything works.
The head of the Occupation Administration, Aksionov, admitted that he can't do anything about the lack of gasoline and electricity in Crimea.
So regarding fuel, unfortunately, there won't be guaranteed daily gasoline sales at gas stations. That is, we can't establish exact schedules yet, so the tension will remain for some time. As for electricity, it is currently impossible to create a schedule that would evenly distribute electricity across the territory of the Republic of Crimea.
Well then, Crimean Switch Off. The overall crushing score for less than 3 weeks in July looks like an absolute catastrophe for the Kremlin. Ukrainian drones have already destroyed 176 Russian watercraft and completely burned down 96 of the most important energy hubs.
We live in the 21st century, the age of technology. Our network isn't working. I can't even make urgent calls to my husband, and I can't run my business properly. We are incurring losses. We can't do anything at all. We can't even refuel our cars.
Let us remind you that on the peninsula and in Russia, the authorities decided that shutting down mobile communications and the internet entirely is easier than solving the problem with electronic warfare.
Authorities, please, if you're going to torment us like this, at least bring back landline phones and payphones. I just don't understand. There's no regular network anywhere at all. It's impossible to call an ambulance or even phone your child. They're jamming everywhere.
For the first time, the leadership listened and decided to start with Crimea. The introduction of nanotechnologies in the occupation administration of Yevpatoria was explained by saying that landline phones would be useful during outages. Similar payphones have already been installed in Jankoy, which has been without electricity for 2 weeks now.
Reports going up say that everything is fine and the power is being turned on according to schedule. In order for it to actually be turned on, as many people as possible need to file complaints, it doesn't matter where, to deputies who head the parties or call the presidential administration. We need to get through somehow because otherwise nothing will be done.
Against the backdrop of electricity restrictions, the occupiers are urging people to get information about the situation in the city via radio and to come charge their devices at special stations.
I don't want to have to leave Crimea just to be able to develop. That's what bothers me the most, you know? It frustrates me, as if there's no end in sight to any of this.
Due to communication problems, residents of northern Crimea are also sending messages to relatives through intercity bus drivers. And let me remind you, it's only going to get worse. And soon this will happen in all Crimean cities.
And now, in the 5th year of the special military operation, Russians are slowly starting to take an interest in politics. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues its operations. Massive drone strikes are depriving the occupiers' group of the ability to refuel equipment, coordinate air defense radars, and maintain the functioning of their bases. This technological cleansing of the aggressor's front line and rear zones will only intensify, turning every enemy military facility into blazing ruins.
Now let's analyze the operational situation on the Lyman sector of the front. The bloody rampage of the enemy's army continues here as well. On the Lyman sector, the aggressor attempted to break through our defenses 26 times, attacking in the areas of Novomikhailivka, Drobyshev, Novoselivka, Rakivka, and towards Shekivka, Stavki, Lyman, and Ozerne. And now, attention. Ukraine has created its own analog of the Iskander. The fact is, our ballistic missiles are capable of striking targets in Moscow and even farther from the border. In turn, Ukrainian drones are now able to drop guided munitions. This is yet another very bad piece of news for the Kremlin maniacs. Details in our report.
Ukrainian ballistic missiles are no longer just a scare story for the Kremlin, but the real future for Russian rear areas. And it's not just about the much publicized production by the company Firepoint, but also about the state project Sapsan, which is also on the way. And there is no doubt about where these missiles will be headed.
First and foremost, it is absolutely necessary to launch strategic strikes against the Russian elite and the highest echelons of the ruling class, specifically targeting areas like Rublyovka, as well as the various governors' luxury properties located throughout the regions. In other words, the goal is to target those currently in power and the very wealthiest segments of the Russian population, rather than focusing on the ordinary middle class. And secondly, we must aim at specific targets that are not only highly visible to the public, but also carry a great deal of profound symbolic and psychological significance.
However, in addition to destroying symbolic targets, the defense forces will surely also aim at the Kremlin's military assets. According to published data, the Ukrainian ballistic missile FP9 is already in the final stages of development. Engine testing is currently being completed, after which the product will undergo combat trials.
As soon as there is a test flight and it shows that everything is working properly, the next test flight should already be aimed at Moscow.
Experts say that Moscow and the surrounding region will become the testing ground for Ukrainian ballistic missiles. First of all, this will undoubtedly be a shock for Russians and the Russian leadership. Secondly, it will allow for significant damage to Putin's defense industry.
I'm telling you, that's 80% of Russia's military-industrial complex gone. You see, the military-industrial complex is everywhere. You can go in and find it anywhere. Within a 150-kilometer radius around Moscow, practically every more or less serious factory, machinery, electronics, some kind of assembly, it's all military-related. That's why you can strike there without any hesitation.
Another important point regarding Ukrainian ballistic capabilities is that they will undoubtedly allow Ukraine to level the playing field with Russia ahead of the heating season. Judging by today's attacks on Kiev, Moscow is counting on continuing this terror during the cold months. And here it's extremely important to have a worthy response.
The cold season of winter is quickly approaching ahead of us now, and we basically have two distinct primary options for exactly how we might get through it comfortably. The first option is to learn how to effectively intercept their ballistic missiles. And the second option, which is more realistic, is to strike some key symbolic targets in Moscow and exchange this for an agreement. If you don't hit our civilian infrastructure, we won't hit yours.
At the same time, Ukraine will undoubtedly back up its strikes with ballistic and cruise missiles. And here too, our defense industry has made significant progress. According to the Firepoint designer, current capacities already allow for the production of 90 Flamingo missiles per month, as well as about 200 long-range drones per day. And there is no doubt that Russian air defense will not be prepared for this Ukrainian trio.
The entire city of Moscow and its surroundings are now completely within the strike zone. They fall within the strike zone. This means that all enterprises in the Moscow region that produce missiles, design missile technology, manufacture both cruise and ballistic missiles in this area, or design ballistic missiles, produce electronics for them, and manufacture UMPK units. All these enterprises will be primary targets.
Meanwhile, there are also quite a few updates from the defense forces at the front. In particular, Ukrainian drones have gained the ability to drop guided munitions thanks to the Ukrainian Firefly guidance module. Additionally, our UAVs can now launch missiles. Altogether, these solutions have already made it possible to significantly change the situation on the front line.
The main thing, once again, is the tactics of the Ukrainian defense forces using drones, using them on a massive scale. The landscape of the area in Zaporizhzhia region is an open plain, which accordingly does not allow the occupiers to secretly redeploy equipment or personnel. All of this is under practically 100% control by the Ukrainian defense forces and accordingly UAV operators. And the latest successful actions are precisely in the area of Primorsk, where a flanking strike by the Ukrainian defense forces has effectively paralyzed the further advance of Russian occupation troops in the Zaporizhzhia direction.
By the way, the main target at which obviously drones, missiles and bombs from UAVs will be aimed this summer still stands intact for now. But with each new Ukrainian military development, the chances for the Crimean bridge to withstand are getting slimmer.
Well then, now let's move to the Kostiantynivka direction of the front. The Russian world continues to destroy, kill and maim here as well. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the enemy carried out 24 attacks in the areas of the settlements of Kostiantynivka, Ilyanivka, Ivanopole, Stepanivka and towards Pavlivka. Ukrainian border guards are strengthening the northern borders and creating a kill zone, preparing for a possible attack from Belarus. This was reported by the State Border Guard Service. Border guards are constructing anti-tank ditches, multi-layered barbed wire barriers, and rows of concrete dragon's teeth. And this is only part of the fortifications being built by the SBGSU servicemen on the northern border. Now let's talk about this topic in more detail.
The border is locked down as well as reinforced, dug up and mined. Ukrainian border guards are actively preparing for a possible invasion from Belarus. Since 2022, engineering barriers have been continuously constructed here. And now, in the 5th year of the war, we can confidently say that the border has turned into a real kill zone for the enemy.
The main threat is the infiltration of enemy personnel. That is their driving force. Mechanized assaults are also taken into account in this matter. For the most part, the terrain here is forested and swampy, so at the moment, it is difficult for vehicles to move through.
And there is more than enough here to meet any infantry that comes through. Clever combinations of obstacles leave the enemy with virtually no chance to advance, the border guards say. And the actions of even single sabotage groups are practically impossible.
This engineering arrangement of the state border essentially creates a kill zone for a potential enemy because it is built in multiple layers and significantly slows the enemy down.
Moreover, to avoid any surprises on the ground, the potential enemy is monitored from the air around the clock. The Border Service's aerial reconnaissance operates in shifts and keeps watch over the Belarusians from above 24/7.
The task of aerial reconnaissance is to monitor the state border's airspace and to detect the movement of personnel and equipment. We cannot fly over into their territory. On our side, we observe. Under normal circumstances, we typically see the standard daily operations of border patrol units and their boats. But if any unusual activity is observed, it will be evident by the deployment of some of their main forces, equipment, or tent camps. It might also be possible to spot the movement of equipment or activity that hasn't been recorded before. It's impossible to miss that. We will definitely notice it.
This year, the Border Service has also become more active in protecting the water border. In the Chernihiv region, its length is more than 100 kilometers.
The primary and most essential responsibility of our group is to actively monitor and patrol the extensive aquatic sections of the border between Ukraine and the Republic of Belarus.
At the same time, the military are setting up their positions on islands along the border and additionally reinforcing them. Even though the river already serves as a fairly reliable barrier, we cannot disregard this direction. Although for now everything is quite calm in this area.
During our patrols, we do not observe any concentrations or buildups of military forces on the opposite side. But if such a threat arises, information about it will be relayed instantly.
Analysts in turn believe that despite all of Minsk's maneuvers with regular joint Russian-Belarusian military exercises, there is currently no direct threat to Ukraine, primarily because they understand who they would have to deal with.
As for the regular standing army, I don't think it's an effective force capable of fighting against the battle-hardened Ukrainian army, which has advanced drone technologies, knows how to fight, and, as they say, is motivated to fight. But the Belarusian army is not. Therefore, the danger of involving the Belarusian army in the war exists only if a powerful Russian military group is deployed on the territory of Belarus.
And it seems that Lukashenko himself is ensuring against such a scenario, regularly making statements that Ukraine could destroy the Belarusian army in a couple of months, thereby also sending signals to Moscow not to count on Minsk.
Back in February 2022, there was no response, but now it will be tough, technological, and powerful. And I am convinced that this could not only lead to the destruction of this Russian group, but it could also trigger processes within Belarus itself that would simply remove it from its role as Russia's ally. This is a risk for Putin as well.
Well, as they say, if you want peace, prepare for war. And Ukrainian border guards say they are ready.
That's all for today, but very soon on Front News there will be new unique reports from our journalists brought to you from the hottest spots of the war so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Tymoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.